Going to begin our Conservation Commission meeting of January 12th, 2022 with our 7:30 p.m. agenda item, which is open forum. And anybody want to bring up anything in open forum? Marilyn?
The only thing I obviously was discussing at the table is whether this group would want to consider going back to virtual until March.
Anybody have any thoughts about going virtual? Jim?
I'd prefer to continue to meet in person. I mean, the town hall is open, the library is open, all the public schools are open, the students, the teachers are all in. The town does have the mask mandate where we've been wearing masks, and we've had all of our guests, the public also wearing them. And in addition, in the past week or so, the numbers of new cases of the that they've been tracking that you see from the public health on the news have been dropping, which is unusual. It hasn't dropped since December, when the peak started around the 1st of December.
That's a high number.
Yeah, it's still high.
It's not like
it's still high, but they've got the forward-looking test, like the sewage treatment plant on Deer Island. That's been going down, and that's a predictor.
So you're in favor of meeting in person?
I prefer.
I like to meet in person, but I agree with Marilyn. I think it would be prudent to meet remotely through March or into March, till the beginning of March.
Margaret?
I prefer the in-person meetings as well. If things are dicey, I would look at it on a month-by-month basis, not say, okay, for the next 2 or 3 months. I wouldn't want to do that longest slog. I would like to be more reactive, that says maybe we do it for the last meeting in January, and then see how things are and revisit it at that point. But no, I'm not. I think this is a much more productive way to run our meetings, and I'd like to stay in person if I could.
Noel?
I agree that we are much more productive in person. I didn't actually physically meet any of you until we started going back to these in-person meetings, and I feel a lot more involved, and I think the meetings run a lot more smoothly, and people are able to speak what they want to say a little bit easier. But I do think that it could be beneficial for all of us to do maybe the next couple meetings virtual, just to be on the safe side. And we don't really have a whole lot of things going on in the winter. There's not a lot of work going on, so I think that it would be best to do a little bit more virtual in the wintertime.
Okay. Personally, I'm for meeting in person, and while I can appreciate folks wanting to take precautions and be safe, and perhaps working remotely, or doing our meetings remotely or virtually, like Jim says, I think other groups are meeting. We have a mask mandate, and if we take precautions, we could still meet in person. So I'm in favor for meeting in person. So I have Jim wanting to meet in person. I'd prefer to meet in person. I have Margaret preferring to meet in person, who understands that perhaps we should meet remotely. But were you saying we should meet remotely for the next couple of meetings, or are you good meeting in person? Or
I am good meeting in person. I take precautions wherever I go. And as Jim said, the schools are open. A lot of the town is functioning. This is probably not going to be the last variant that we have to deal with, and it's kind of, it's to me, it's a series of steps from the way we were in 2020 to how we position ourselves to operate going forward. I would be comfortable meeting remotely on the 26th, but I really don't want to be looking at a series of meetings without that being based on hard numbers.
all right, I want to make a motion that we continue to meet in person. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to make the motion. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
We've had some discussion. So I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor?
We have to roll call vote with a person, so,
So Marilyn,
No.
not in favor. Jim
yes.
is in favor. Noel,
No.
not in favor. Ann?
No.
No. Margaret?
Yes.
Eric? Yes. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If there's a tie, I believe that we continue to do things the way they
Before we
are.
declare it final, do you want to do a compromise and do like
What if we
one
just-
meeting or two and just see how it
What
goes?
if we just skip the next January meeting, do that virtually, and plan to be
Yeah.
back in February?
Yeah, want to try
Unless the
that?
numbers are crazy.
So
So
I don't
make-
want to
so-
force anybody that
Take
Okay.
doesn't.
one meeting virtually to get us out of this.
So we had a 3 to 3 on that, so make that motion then.
Well, I make a motion that our next meeting be virtual, and then we return, assuming that it's safe, in February to the regular meetings.
We can revisit it even at the next meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, good. I'll go for that. I'd vote
Okay.
yes, yes. for
Any
that.
further discussion? All those in favor, Marilyn?
Yes?
Yes.
Jim? Noel?
Yes.
That's a yes, yep. Ann?
Yes.
Margaret? Eric, yes.
Okay, good.
So next meeting will be virtual. After that, hopefully back in person.
Our fingers crossed, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And just to be a bit cautious, okay? 'Cause
We're all
it
good?
doesn't matter that everyone's taking their.
Okay, we're gonna move on to our 7:31.
Buildings get COVID.
All right, go for it, yep.
So the trampoline that was in Long Sotford Pond was raised at the last couple of meetings, was removed over the New Year's. Just wanted to double check with the commission to see if there was any availability to meet with the Westford Academy teacher has a prompt. Was wondering if there is, if not, I can certainly make some time and speak to one or all of her classes.
She had 3 classes. She had 3
Yeah, I mean, you can
classes.
folll back up with me, I just didn't want it to fall by the
Understand.
wayside. I think
I don't
she can, she asked, I think there's availability until the 25th of January, so I can. The MACC conference for 2022 will be held virtually. It's from March 1st through the 12th, obviously. It's a couple events a day, or sessions a day. If any of the commissioners are interested, please let me know. We do have funds available for training and education. The Recreation Department reached out. They have received quite a number of inquiries for weddings and cabin rentals up at the East Boston camps at Stony Brook Conservation Area, and wanted to get the commission's thoughts on, as I thought we had left it last year, it was, in accordance with the guidance from the state for, those types of activities. So, there hasn't been any
Wedding or anything.
size, restrictions. Marilyn?
Yeah, I think also you want to get some feedback from the Board of Health,
Okay.
to see how they feel about that.
Okay. Certainly do that, and
They
we'll
may have
update
some
the commission.
guidelines so that you could start something small, say, yeah, 25 people can come, you know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
don't think you can have 50 people
Yep.
gathered at this point anyway.
Have they been asking for specific dates so that we know, for example, is it May, is it August?
I think they are, I haven't seen that. And
Okay.
so, I can also get that information for the commission.
Yeah, because I think based on what we've seen the last 2 years, that can factor into, what we would approve.
Yeah, but we haven't been making decisions that in advance like that because we had no way of knowing what it looked
Right.
like.
Yep.
So we're not that dissimilar now, you know what I mean? We can
Right.
know what we do for the next month or two, but I'm not sure you can predict for June.
No, but at least we know the time frame they're looking, and that can
Right,
help
right.
us say,
No, I
this is
agree.
when we would make a
I
decision.
agree.
Just with Noel being on the telephone this evening, all votes will be roll call. We hit that one. Mass DEP announced the water management and conservation projects. There are projects to increase system resiliency and manage stream flow. The town of Westford and Littleton was granted some to be used for the continuation of the Stony Brook restoration project. I thought that was important to pass along. And then just for town government, the Access to Town Meeting Committee survey, or the Access to Town Meeting committee has created a very short survey for residents to fill out and share their experience with Westford's annual and special town meetings. There's a link on the town's website. Hard copies are also available at the J.V. Fletcher Library, Cameron Senior Center, and Town Clerk's Office. Thank you.
I did have one thing for open forum as well, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
So the Agricultural Commission is back on Paula's use of plastic weed block. Their concerns are whether she's using a product that's organic and whether in fact it is being sufficiently tilled into the soil that it would decompose.
This is for who? From the new,
This is on the farm
right.
that she puts down the
Okay,
black.
I know who it is now, okay.
Yes. You know, and it just,
I will get the spec sheet, the cut sheet.
I didn't realize that stuff was biodegradable, that you could turn it under.
There are different, I had to do research on this because
Okay.
I was unaware as well. Because there is, the typical plastic, thin,
Yeah.
thin mill. But there's also one it's, I think, a corn-based kind of
okay, yeah. 'cause-
construction.
real
And so,
cover?
when I went back to look at the farm plan that she submitted a couple years ago, and, it says black plastic mulch. So I've reached out to her. I will certainly
Okay,
make
yeah.
sure we get a confirmation that it is, it isn't just the black mulch.
Okay, yeah,
Plastic.
yeah, I mean, they are really, and I don't know whether it's aesthetic or what, but they are making a big deal out of the fact that they can see black plastic in the farm fields. So, yeah, if you can get me that detail, that would be great.
Will do.
All set? Okay, we're going to move on to our 7:31 PM agenda item, which is a request for certificate of compliance for, that would be DEP file number 334-1764 for the Kloppenberg Trail Footbridge, and a request to accept gift funds.
Okay, wait, do I have this too?
Nope, it talks, it's fine.
Okay, so first off, hi, my name is Gautam Anoop. I was here for a public hearing months ago virtually, and now I've finished my footbridge on the Kloppenberg Trail, and I encourage everyone to visit it when you get a chance. And then, so obviously I had to do fundraising in order to execute my project, and after calculating how much I raised versus how much I spent, I realized that I raised $382.56 more than I needed. So I am requesting that the commission accept that, and then, as Matt said, it has to go to the select board next. So then once you approve it, the select board has to approve it. So any questions, or Jim?
Mostly just a thank you.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah, thank you.
we-
What a lovely-
We've only
what a
had,
lovely problem to have.
yes, I think we've only had one other project come back, and I think it was a scout troop that had dissolved, and
Yeah.
it was donating some remaining funds. But your funds will go towards other scouts that are doing projects across town, so you'll have a bigger impact than what you did already.
Yep.
So, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So, any other comments before we issue the certificate of compliance?
I recommend the certificate.
Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion to issue the certificate of compliance, DEP file number 334-1764 for the Kloppenberg Trail?
Second.
Second.
All's in favor?
We have to do all roll call votes.
Okay, Marilyn?
Yes.
Yes. Jim?
Yes.
Yes. Noel?
Yes.
Yes. Ann?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
Eric, yes.
And
Aye.
if I could also have a vote to accept the gift fund,
Okay.
the funds.
So
Can I have a
moved.
motion to that effect?
Second.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Jim second.
Second.
Jim second. All's in favor, Marilyn?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
Eric, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate all your work.
Do I need a motion to close this public hearing?
No.
Okay, I
It's
didn't
not
think,
public.
okay, yeah. Okay, we're gonna move on to our 7:32 PM agenda item, which we're gonna hold for now, or is that the bat boxes, or?
We can table that till later.
Okay. We're gonna move on to our 7:35 PM agenda item, which is a public hearing for Graves 15 Camp Road, which is a request for determination. You wanna read that, Jim?
This is a legal notice under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171. The Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, January 12th, 2022, at 7:35 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, on the request for determination of applicability application of Ange Graves for replacement of the existing failing septic system with a new septic tank and leaching field, with a portion of the septic tank and associated grading within 100 feet of bordering vegetated wetlands at 15 Camp Road, Assessors Map 74, Parcel 194, Lot 0.
Good evening.
Good evening, I'm Kirk Fitzpatrick with Civil Solutions, and I'm here on behalf of Ann Graves for her property at 15 Camp Road. And basically what we have proposed before you is proposed upgrade design for the existing 3-bedroom house. Currently it has a septic tank located right off the middle of the back of the house and a small leaching area to the left rear of the house. We conducted 2 test holes in the rear yard, test holes 1 and 2, where we observed a water table at 3 feet. There's a bordering vegetated wetland that runs down the south side of the property. It's kind of the originally was probably man-made drainage. It's the bordering vegetated wetland now that drains a good portion of the Nabnasset area. So associated with that are the 50-foot wetland offset and 100-foot wetland offset. The 100-foot wetland offset just cuts through the right side of the house and leaves a very small area of the property that's outside the 100-foot buffer zone. So what we're proposing is to come out to a new 1,500-gallon 2-compartment tank, pushed back just slightly behind from where the existing septic tank is, and that's going to feed into a 1,000-gallon pump chamber, and that's going to pump the liquid up to a new system composed of the Geomat leaching field. Geomat is an innovative alternative system that allows a groundwater reduction and also has a very low profile. The system utilizes pressure distribution, so when the pump kicks on, it pressurizes all the laterals in the leach field, so you get very equal distribution of the liquid into the ground. And it also has reduced grading requirements. This house is serviced by town water, which comes in the right front corner of the house. The Board of Health has reviewed this plan and approved it. The permit has not been issued. They're just waiting on a little bit of paperwork. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any storage, when you put in a new septic and you're digging things up, do you have any storage of materials on site, or, you know, the dirt that you dig up? Is this...
Yeah, they'll have to truck this away. There's really not a spot for it to be stored here. And everything there's no place to leave it in any case. There's a little bit of breakout grading requirement around the leach field, but other than that, no.
Okay. Jim, any questions?
No, looks good to me. The only
Other
place they can,
questions from
only
the
place they can
commission?
put it.
Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve this?
So moved. Second.
All's in favor?
Marilyn?
Jim, yes.
Questions?
No, just a favor.
We have to do
Yes.
roll call.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
She go-
Marilyn?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
Eric? Yes. Thank you. Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All's in favor? Marilyn?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Thank you. Ann?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
Eric? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You as well.
As well.
Okay, we're going to move on to our 7:40 PM agenda item, which is a public hearing for our Hard Rock Builders LLC. This is a project on 71 Powers Road.
This is a legal notice under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetland bylaw, Chapter 171. The Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, January 12th, 2022, at 7:40 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, on the notice of intent application of Hard Rock Builders LLC for demolition of the existing structures and construction of 5 single-family dwellings, utilities, and associated site improvements within 100 feet of bordering vegetated wetlands and 200 feet of a perennial stream at 0 and 71 Powers Road, Assessors Map 5, Parcels 10 and 11, Lots 0.
Good evening, Commission members. My name is Seth Donahoe. I'm with Dillis and Roy. We are the civil engineers and land surveyors assisting with the project. Sam Palmer's with me tonight as well. He's with the applicant, Hard Rock Builders. As you discussed, this is 71 and 0 Powers Road, which is directly adjacent to the Neshoba Ski area on the northerly side of Powers Road. It presently has some large farm buildings on it. This site was actually previously reviewed by the Commission and an order of conditions issued for a prior project as well. We're here before you tonight with what we believe is an improvement over that project. The applicant has sought some relief from the ZBA to allow the continued residential use of the site, which was something that was not available when we were here before. And as you mentioned, we are proposing 5 dwellings on the site. To put the site in perspective, the main parcel, 71 Powers Road, is 13.62 acres, and the applicant has also obtained the railroad strip to the north of it, which is about an additional 3 acres. So overall, it's about 16 acres. Our total project footprint is right around 2 acres, so a very small percentage of the site. And of that, only 22,000 square feet is within the regulatory buffer zones to resource areas.
I think everybody here has actually walked this property at one point or another for a site visit.
Okay?
So, yeah,
Excellent.
we're all quite familiar with the property.
So as you mentioned, the total project is 5 dwellings. Only 3 of those, and a portion of only 3 of those, is within the 100-foot buffer zone. The proposed project will meet all of the local wetland setback requirements. All structures will be greater than 75 feet from the resource area, and the vegetation or the lawn area will be limited to 55 feet or more from the resource area. Stormwater on the site is in full compliance with both the state standards and the more restrictive town of Westford standards. This project is presently being reviewed by the planning board as well, and as part of that, they have had the engineering department review the stormwater design. We have received a preliminary review on that, and there are no major changes required to it. The actual stormwater infiltration area is outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. That is the yellow hatched area that you can see underneath the cul-de-sac on your screen. We're proposing to collect all the runoff from impervious surfaces, route it to that area, and the only portion subject to this notice of intent is there's an emergency overflow where the treated stormwater would flow out, and that's between units 3 and 4. There's a flared end and a plunge pool proposed in that area. That's exactly it right there. The site is in a priority habitat of rare species. We've successfully completed the review with NHESP. The commission should have received their no-take letter for this proposed project as well. As you all have seen the site, and I believe are familiar with it from past reviews, I'll be happy to answer any particular questions related to our current proposal.
I just want to make sure. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
I recall from our site visit, which was probably 2 years plus ago, that there was a lot of debris in the area of the road, the original condition roadway that did kind of a loop. And it were things like old plows and rusted hulks of cars and things like that. Are those all going to be removed before the whole project starts?
Correct. So presently, there are 2 construction entrances, or actually there's 1 temporary construction entrance that was installed as part of the old project. That's approximately in the location where we're proposing to access the site now. And then there was the remnants of a asphalt driveway associated with a larger farm building, which is south of that. It's not shown on that particular screen there. As part of this process, more of a formality, there can't be 2 order of conditions on one project. So we did submit a request for a certificate of compliance indicating that those items had been installed and requesting that if a new order is issued, we'd request to close out that old order.
All right.
So,
And I think also in that same one, there was some spots where there was invasive species around that general area also. Likewise, that's all going to be
Correct, yes.
taken care of and be covered under the first certificate of compliance as being completed before you start this?
I would imagine that invasive species removal would be an ongoing.
Yeah.
It would be something, but I wish it was
But this would be a good
one
start.
and done, but yes, it will carry forward on this order.
Okay.
Yeah, so just to speak to that, the certificate of compliance and unperfect, completely fine, leaving it open until the commission or issues, finishes the review of this notice of intent. It would likely be, the certificate of compliance would likely be issued as invalid, no work being done, what was done because, you know, the construction, erosion controls is fairly minor.
Erosion control, debris removal, and some invasive species removal, and that would be it, right?
Right, you know, that's the
Okay.
entire scope, and
Good.
most of, you know, those conditions from that original order, you know, very likely would get reintroduced in the new
Okay.
special conditions, just as, you know, things that, you know, needs to be addressed.
And the only suggestion I'd have on the current plan is I see you have a line of protective buffer trees or bushes of some sort along the 55-foot line proposed.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, I see 'em.
If there could be a continuation down in this area, not necessarily of the shrubbery or the plantings, but some conservation post markers, you know, 4x4 posts that indicate conservation area beyond that area, no modifications or changes, that kind of thing. Matt has some samples.
Yeah, and actually, if there's no other comments from the commission, I can certainly.
Yeah,
a couple other things as well.
my only other comment is, you know, you speak to removing invasive species. You need to do that. There was a lot of that. But on this plan right here, I don't see a limit of disturbance. And I know some work has to go out there, but, you know, at some point, we would want to see a limit of disturbance on the plan to make sure that, you know, people weren't, you know, machinery or equipment. I don't see one. Do you see one, Jim? A limit of disturbance?
I was assuming it was the plantings that say some kind of a...
You mean?
I don't, you know,
The limit of work while the project is occurring?
well, right now, I see 100, I've got a 75, I've got a 50, but I have no idea where the limit of work is gonna be. I know there's some invasive species and things and work that has to go on out here, but I don't have where any hay bales or silt fence would be or any of that, you know.
Go, 2 more pages.
2 more pages, okay.
Yep. And it's the kind of thicker dashed line.
Got it.
Just inside the...
Got it.
Yeah,
Just
inside,
just-
and that was actually one of engineering's comments was if, you know, at the time of construction or installation of those,
The trees, yeah.
You know, to make sure if an additional, you know, row of silt fence is installed just to.
Yeah, we would have no problem with that. The intent is that the closest limit of work is in full compliance with bylaw, and then we would, where we're improving the buffer zone through plantings, we would put secondary erosion control behind that as needed.
So if your limit of work is, let's say 50, and then you're gonna be doing the plantings just on the outside of that 50, everything back from the 50, you're looking to lawn or improve or what have you? Is that what the plan is? And then have this be lawn or something, and back here up until the, you know, limit of disturbance?
That's correct. Each unit has a fairly limited lawn area.
So Jim, you would want to make sure that they had some sort of conservation post or something along the 50 there, so they would?
Yeah, right around about where they're putting these plantings. And
Okay.
I don't know if Noelle is going to mention it, but she oftentimes does. The plantings should all be either native New England or
Yeah, they
or the
need to be
region.
indigenous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
You read my mind, Jim.
All right.
There you go.
I think the plants are listed on sheet C, Charlie 6, at the top right. I looked them up, and the only one I think that I found out were this Thuja green giant. I think that's from native to Japan and northern China or something. It grows nicely around here, and it grows quickly, but I know that it's not a native plant. The other ones, I don't know.
Yeah, I, you know, recommend red cedar, like, you know, some, I was looking at, again, looking back at the 1709 and 5 for planting plan, and there was, I think, eastern red cedar and white pine, kind of staggered a little bit more natural communities than just all along one, you know, extent, so I'm just concerned about them kind of growing into each other, you know, making sure there's enough space for them.
Well, some will grow, the ones will outcompete others, you know, that's what happens.
Mr. Palmer and I will be happy to discuss mixing that up instead.
Margaret?
Yes, and one of the things that I was looking at was your proposed snow storage, which is along people's driveways. in some of the locations, that's also where trees are planted, and I'm also wondering whether homeowners will want to be planting, you know, shrubs, whatever, along their driveways. I'm wondering whether that is actually going to work as snow storage for the site.
So you want to make sure they have sufficient snow storage?
Yeah, there has to be sufficient snow storage someplace where if there are chemicals that are put down and then plowed up, that it's not in a location where that material, or that there can then be run off into the wetlands, but also so that there's, so homeowners desire to have nicely landscaped front yard and snow storage can coexist without causing issues.
We'd have no problem, we'll adjust the snow storage and
Okay.
show that on there, so
Yeah,
there's no
and also
conflicts with
thinking in
plans.
terms of if there's a big storm, it can be problematic if you've got large snowbanks right next to people's driveways.
So to your comment regarding any of the de-icing chemicals, the site is actually graded so that the driveways pitch back to the stormwater collection system, which has sumps and then treatment within that as well, so that going directly to the wetlands is not as great a concern in this area.
And my concern was more down the roads, they're hiring somebody to do plowing, and he's got to get it off the paved surfaces, he starts pushing it everywhere, and what we all intend may not be, if we don't plan well, what we intend may not be what happens.
Absolutely.
Other than that, I can't really see much else. I mean, if you're good with them being to the 50. Matt?
Yeah, so my comments were conservation posts, if
Yep.
we could show those on the landscaping plan. And then also just identifying the area behind the plantings closer to the wetlands. You show it kind of in the darker green shade here as, areas to be left natural. Are you planning on doing any plantings, or is that just, or any form of seed mix? Or I know in the prior 1709, kind of over the retaining wall, there was, the wildflower seed mix. There was a couple seed mixes proposed. And, if you had thought about it, or if we can incorporate kind of some areas to be naturalized.
Well, we can certainly incorporate a seed mix in that green hatched area. The intent, and really what's happening right now is, as the site has sat a little, is that it's basically a shrub habitat that's forming in that area. We wouldn't want to remove what's growing there, but we'll certainly supplement that with, whether it's one of New England wetlands plants, seed mixes that is suitable for a buffer zone upland area like that.
Yeah, I think the intent before was, to kind of clean it up, get rid of the junk that was in there, try to get rid of the invasives to the extent that we could, and then just, put some sort of wild seed mix back there and, let nature take its course.
We'll be happy to specify that.
Anything else, Matt? Anything else before we continue this? Anything from the audience? Seeing none, Matt, on our next meeting is?
January 26th, and we're planning on holding that virtually.
Yeah, we will. Have any idea what time you'd want to put them on the virtual meeting?
I would just say starting at 7:30, and then we can kind of
Okay.
adjust the agenda as
Okay.
necessary.
So you'll be on our meeting on the 26th. We should hopefully be able to close an issue.
We are actually not before the planning board until their first meeting in February. So
Oh, then let's,
and we'd rather,
Then let's push off a little.
February 9th
Okay.
is the next.
Can't tell you whether we'll be remote or in person, though.
we'll be here either way.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Do you want a motion?
Motion then to continue the public hearing until February 9th.
So moved.
Second.
All's in favor, Margaret?
Marilyn.
Oh, yeah, Marilyn, Jim,
Yes.
Noel? Ann?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes?
Eric? Yes. Great. See you on the
Thank you.
9th.
It's only 22 years for anyone, no difference. big those
Great.
houses are. How big those houses are. No idea.
Okay, we're going to move on to our 7:55 PM agenda item, which is a public hearing continued for 52 Lakeshore Drive North. And the applicant has requested a continuance of the public hearing until February 9th. Can I have a motion then to continue this public hearing until February 9th?
So moved.
Second.
All's in favor, Marilyn?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Yes. Ann?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
Eric? Yes. Okay, continue to the 9th. Okay, we're going to move on to our 8 PM agenda item, which is issuing an enforcement order for 87 Graniteville Road.
I don't know if the applicant is here. I think I sent him reminded him of the meeting tonight and sent this, I think it was after 5 o'clock. I had forgotten to send the draft enforcement order to them. So if it's the commission's pleasure, if it's the commission's will, I'd like to, discuss, but also allow, incorporate your feedback into another draft for the commission to ultimately issue at the meeting on the 26th.
I didn't have anything else.
So you want to issue the enforcement order on the 26th at our next
Right,
meeting?
yeah, I'd take into any comments the commission may
I thought you
have.
Do we have any further
I
comments?
thought you were pretty complete with this.
No. Did you indicate, I wasn't sure if I fully understood, did you want to have the applicant have a read of it also? Not the
Yes,
applicant,
yes,
but the-
and,
okay.
with
That
the
ma-
commission, I don't
Understand.
want
He
to.
just didn't get it till late today.
Yeah, that was my
Sounds good.
fault.
Sounds
Noel,
good.
you have any further comments, issues in regards to the,
No.
okay? Ann,
No, that's okay.
Margaret?
Uh,
Okay, so what we'll do is leave it open till the 26th?
anything from-
In regards to the enforcement order?
Yeah.
Okay, public have any comments in regards to the enforcement order, sir?
Good evening, and thank you very much. My name is Paul Sincotta. I'm here with my sister Karen. She owns the property at 83 Graniteville. So you may recall at the last meeting, we had filed the original inquiry. We had a chance and an opportunity to review the draft order, and really just the one question that we had is there was a culvert that was installed in the stream that's on the property. I don't think that it's decades old. And so the question really was the culvert and then the associated wetland crossing and the stream crossing. Should that, would that be considered as being part of what needs to be removed? And primarily because it seems as though it's a feature. Well, a couple of things, Matt, maybe one thing just to refresh folks' memories on what the wetland boundary looks like on the property. There is a wetland delineation that shows up on the A&R plan. Yeah, I think you probably have a pretty good idea of where the culvert that I'm speaking of.
Yep, it's actually obscured by it's actually where I took the pictures 4 and 5. I was probably standing right on it.
Right.
So, in terms of understanding when that actually occurred, and looking at kind of evolving case law regarding enforcements and kind of the time, I think it's time of repose. Excuse me, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just reading this off of a brief, an article. But I think the time frame for the commission to act on violations is within 3 years of the violation or when a property title is transferred. So that's, I think it's something that, could certainly, I don't know when it occurred. I know certainly, those PVC, the kind of teal plastic pipes are certainly a more recent,
So why don't we make it part of the enforcement order to at least have that addressed. And if somebody comes back to us and that's their response, then that'll be their response. But let's cover it in the enforcement order.
Okay. I can certainly add.
I think its presence, just sort of encourage might be the wrong word, but it just sort of invites crossing.
No, exactly,
crossing the
and
stream
you know, I would,
and impacting further in.
I think people should come before the Conservation Commission if they're looking to do work in the buffer. That's, you know, our charge, and that's what they should do. And if somebody didn't do it, and it's recent work, and, you know, it wasn't permitted, then it should be part of this enforcement order.
I will certainly add a 6th
Okay.
end of it, and.
Folks pretty much in agreement with that? Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll continue this until the 26th, and then we'll issue the enforcement order on the 26th.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, we're going to move on to our 8:10 PM agenda item, which is a public hearing continued on issue order of conditions for New England Power Company. Anybody here from New England Power?
Yeah, there was some letter from them that said that they were gonna be here, yeah.
What happens when this gets frozen?
I know.
Do we have any issues? Did they have any issues with the orders?
So we did receive a natural heritage letter. It was dated the day before our meeting. And the email there was an email from BSC Group. They were concerned about the special condition for
The dates of,
yeah, the prohibition of work between December 1st and April 1st. They were advocating that frozen conditions were ideal for the work to be done, as it would, you know, provide more stable ground conditions for the machines. And
So all they need to do if they want to work between December 1st and April 1st is we issue the order and then they make the written request. So what would be any different between them and any other applicant before us?
We should just have it in writing, which
We just
then
follow the
once we say
process.
yes, go
Yeah.
ahead and do it.
There's a process to be able to do the work during that period, and they can
Yeah,
follow
and we
up
always
with
have, we
everybody else.
never remove that order
agree.
from the order of conditions.
I
We
agree.
simply make them comply.
Yeah, just tell them we're amenable, just they wouldn't have to do it no letter, that's all.
So with that, did they have any other issues with the orders?
no, that
Okay.
was their only concern.
Okay, seeing no others, can I have a motion to issue the order of conditions for the New England Power Company work on the transmission lines right-of-way?
So moved.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Marilyn?
Yes.
Yes. Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Yes,
Margaret? Eric? Yes. I'm assuming they're not going to come back with any questions, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Motion to close the public
So
hearing?
moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Marilyn?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Margaret?
yes.
Eric? Yes. Excellent. Moving right along, we're going to move on to our 8:15 PM agenda item, which is a public hearing continued and to issue the order of conditions for 124 Main Street.
Good evening, Matt Waterman with Land Tech Consultants. Here with me tonight is Joe Telda with 124 MSW LLC. Our last meeting was back before the holidays, it was December 8th. Since we've been in front of the commission, we had an additional meeting with the planning board. They closed the public hearing on the site plan review. The engineering department issued an approval letter. We've submitted the plans to this commission that address the issues with the engineering letter. And then we've incorporated a couple items that we discussed or that were raised at the last meeting within the riverfront area. As most of you recall, there were some concerns or issues with what was going on in the riverfront area. We had established that we were restoring, the first 100 feet of the riverfront buffer. And then the discussion was what was going on in the outer 100 to 200. When we left the meeting, Joe and I discussed it. We hadn't, to be honest, we hadn't developed any plans. With the focus up until that point was planning and zoning and engineering and stormwater. And we hadn't put the thought in, with the exception of kind of the restoration, but we hadn't put any thought into what some of the accessory uses might be, what their goals were for that area. They worked with his son Michael, a landscape architect. They developed some of the uses and that they put on this plan. It started with the Historical Commission had requested some of the materials be reconstructed as a shed or saved as a shed, repurposed as a shed. And so that's where kind of the discussion started, is that we had to find a spot for the shed. And then that kind of translated over to the community gardens that we felt would be a good idea, a kind of a passive use in this area. We added the patios to the units. They were on the plans, but they weren't being shown on our renderings. They were in the plan set, in the architectural plans. So we did designate those patios, and all those are well outside the 200-foot riverfront area. But then just thinking, having some usable space in the backyard, there's a septic system in this area, as well as the infiltration systems are kind of directly behind the units. The community gardens kind of got pushed back a little bit. And then we incorporated the garden shed. We redid the plantings that were within the buffer to be native plantings, worked with the landscape architect. And then there was a landscape, hardscape feature that was kind of going to be a community fire pit for all of the units. We had a decision on whether you put it in front of the berm or behind the berm. We felt just from the neighbors and visibility and keeping it kind of closer to the units. We ended up pushing the berm back slightly and putting that right on the edge of the 200-foot buffer, trying to find the best spot for it. And then we added the patio locations, like I noted. I know that Matt drafted an order of conditions. It also included a couple of the comments from the abutters, including fertilizers, and plant heights and sizes, minimum 2 to 2.5 inch diameter. And then the evergreens, or the plantings along the earth burn, 6 to 8 feet at planting time. And then I know that there was also there was an exhibit that was submitted, I don't know if the commission saw it, but just kind of clarified some of the fence removal in this area. There's a lot of fencing. There's horse paddock fencing. There's wire fencing along the rear. There's a concrete retaining wall with a wooden fence. And so we just clarified that with an exhibit plan. All of the fences get removed, except we were hoping that just the wire fence that runs along the property line could remain. The horse paddock fencing gets removed. The wood fence gets removed, and the berm gets kind of put in its place for screening, but then the concrete retaining wall would remain. It falls right on the edge of where our meadow area is, and then we also included in that exhibit plan locations for the conservation post, which we felt were best suited further than the 100-foot wetland buffer within the 200-foot riverfront jurisdiction, along that meadow, kind of along this line. And that mimics the concrete retaining wall, which I think helps kind of support that delineation. Be happy to answer any questions. Joe is here, obviously, to answer any questions. Went through it quickly, but
Which sheet has the conservation markers on it? I've been looking.
it's on the screen behind you, sorry. I should have brought it.
I don't know, what's the sheet number?
Yeah, and that was late coming in, and I apologize. It was.
Oh, is that why I can't find it in the?
Probably can't find it there. It was an email, my understanding, and we were just trying to kind of go through the draft order conditions and not to get ahead of ourselves, but this was kind of,
Okay.
we wanted to provide some clarification on the fencing and the CR post, which we had touched on quickly at the last meeting. But we felt like it was helpful just for discussion purposes.
Did you have any questions in regards to the order of conditions for us? Were you happy with the
Beyond
order?
that, we did not.
I just have,
Okay, go ahead.
one point of clarification. There are 2 trees being shown kind of in between this conservation post, and then on the plan it's not being shown. Are those trees to remain?
Can you zoom in on that? I'm sorry.
Go back.
Those 2 gray ones.
Yeah, I'll go back on this plan. It's a 12-inch and an 18-inch.
I don't think we,
I don't think there's any trees there, Matt, at this time.
I'd have to look. Those are right on the edge of the paddock.
Yeah, again, it was just,
No, I don't recall those being there at this time.
Any
We can
other?
check, and if there's no intent, if they are there, we can keep them there, and
okay, again, that works for me.
I think they might be small ornamental trees, like the ones that run along Main Street, kind of like that size, but I'm not 100% sure. They have pictures and everything, but not. We can confirm that, and follow up with Matt and make sure that they're.
If they do exist, we would leave them in place.
They're probably right along the edge of the.
Yeah, could be. I just,
The
there's,
pavement and
there's a
the
white,
fence.
there's a paddock fence right there, almost in line with those red posts, as Matt has said, and I don't recall seeing any trees right there.
And then just for the commission, if we could amend the draft special conditions to include this plan as a exhibit. That's
Sounds like a plan. Commission have any other comments in regards to these orders of conditions? Audience have any questions in regards? Certainly, come on up.
Joe Vizella, 9 Douglas Road, one of the abutters. So, one question I had was, if you move back the berm, that land slopes down. How, does that affect the height, the original height that you were doing? The whole idea of this was.
Actually, you want to bring back
Yeah, I
that
don't
one
know.
that has that plan that has that elevations on it?
Yeah, I somehow put them up and I ended up
Just made the berm taller than you had.
See who gets there first, Matt or me.
There we go. That's the one.
The one with the red dots had,
So
oh,
that-
that has elevations too, okay.
The parking lot is at 240 and the top of the berm is 244, so it did not change it got pushed back, and the berm heights and everything stayed the same. And the swale, that was part of, there's a small swale that feeds the rain garden off to the left, that drains the parking lot. So there was a lot of things going on there, even though it doesn't show up as well on our rendering.
Okay. So, the other question, I know that we talked about it during the last meeting, was, since they were clearing out a lot of the paved areas, that there might be an opportunity to naturalize this area that's in the RFA that still seems to be lawn area for the plan. Are we still considering that, or is that off the table?
I don't know.
Our intent
I don't-
was to maintain that area shown outside the CR post as maintained areas.
You want to get to the one with the CR post on it? There we go.
Yeah.
And whether, and which includes the which, and again, when I started the discussion, we had kind of gotten hyper-focused on the rain garden, stormwater, parking, and all of those things, and the restoration, that we didn't think of some of the amenities that, and we had never even talked about it as a team with any of the boards. And so we felt, and I talked to Joe, and he said, well, we did have some of those things in mind. We just haven't gotten to that point yet. And so when we started to develop that, and with the septic system, you can see the septic system, the overflow parking, the rain garden, or not the rain gardens, plus the roof drains kind of pushed things to the back. So the intent was to maintain anything outside of that CR post.
So now you have 2 community gardens in that area up there too, so, you know, that's probably some of the area that you were talking about maybe being renaturalized, and it looks like they're gonna be using it for the community garden.
So,
Seems like a fine use to me.
well, in the area where they're removing the post and rail fence,
Yep.
that now is kind of pasture-like.
Yes.
And from the tree line, it looks like that's gonna be allowed to naturally revegetate, and that would not be maintained lawn?
That's correct.
So there's a significant portion that looks like, that looks like fields now that will be allowed to naturalize and will not be maintained lawn.
But, I mean, we spent, the committee and I think the abutters spent a good year trying to make sure that we were staying within the regulations of the RFA and keeping that RFA there. And now it seems like we're just kind of letting certain things leak into it. And, you know, my understanding of the RFA was that you're not supposed to disturb those grounds. And you can tell me if I'm wrong with that understanding.
In what way they shouldn't disturb what?
Well, maybe I should ask, does the DEP have a regulation that says if something is within the RFA, so much percent of it can be disturbed?
You mean the inner and outer riparian zone?
Yeah, within-
Okay, yeah, like, it's usually like 10% alteration in the outer riparian zone. In this case, it looks like some of that work has, that had been previously disturbed, that area. I don't think there's any additional disturbance over what had been disturbed in the outer riparian zone.
No, and you don't get penalized for improvements for degraded areas, which are defined typically as impervious surfaces, pavement areas. Buildings. And so as long as you're not exceeding that, and it's in the report, and it spins my head every single time, and I'll be honest, but as long as you're not exceeding, you still have to maintain that 1-to-1 ratio because this is a redevelopment, so it gets into a more complicated math problem, if you will.
So do you know what percent, based on this plan, how much percent of the RFA you are disturbing?
I didn't bring the original report. And it's towards the back of the research. That defines the riverfront area calculations, bulk. And it quantifies, how much existing, how much proposed, is woods, lawn, pavement within that. The first line is within the 100-foot, the total. And then the second line, the second row is 0 to 100 foot, and then 100 to 200. But Matt, if you scroll down, the existing percentage on that bottom disturbed pavement area, that's just a calculation of the reduction of the degraded areas.
Within the zone or within the whole
Within the 200-foot buffer only.
Okay, so that's
percentage within that riverfront area that's disturbed, pavement lawn areas. And existing, it's 90%, and then we're improving it to 35%. And if you keep scrolling down, Matt, and I didn't get into this, it gets into the alternatives 1, alternative 2, keep going if you don't mind, sorry. And then we do the comparison of the before and after, and then if you scroll a little further, this gets into the alteration of the riverfront area and that percentage and not exceeding the one, and ensuring that you don't exceed the 1-to-1. And honestly, you have to take an 8-hour. It's like taking an 8-hour OSHA course to understand all this. I'm not gonna lie. I have to read it 3 times every time, and it's, it gets into the 10% or exceeding 5,000 square feet. The total area is 42,000 on the lot. 15,000 between the 100, 26,000 of that's between the 100 and 200. And then the disturbed area, we demonstrate that we're only disturbing the 2,967, the bold area between the 100 and 200. Everything in the 100 we're improving. We're returning it from a meadow to a meadow habitat. So we're not doing anything in the upper paragraph. But the second one, between the 100 and 200, you have 3,000 square feet of lawn and 9,000 square feet of pavement, and we're improving that 9,000 square feet. It includes removing all impervious surfaces, and includes restoring the meadow habitat. And if you read that line,
Is this in the package, just so?
it is,
Okay.
absolutely.
If you go to sheet Charlie 2, that's the site demolition and site prep plan. It shows all of that 9,000 square feet of impervious paving that's all going to be removed. And
Out of the outer riparian.
Yes, it's all between the 100 and the 200.
Okay, yeah.
And that's where the items like the recreational gardens and the fire pit are going to go, and those are all pervious places. So, I mean, that's a giant
So that's
improvement.
certainly an improvement
big
from
one.
our
Yes.
Now
standpoint.
this is online, right?
Yeah, no, I know.
All of this beige color,
Which is degraded area.
which is all pavement, is all the pavement's coming off.
Got it. Okay, so I guess as long as they don't go 10% above what they're giving back, is that, I'm just trying to figure out how to do this calculation.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure how you guys vote for it if you don't understand the calculation, to be honest with you.
Well, honestly, we can see the existing situation in the outer riparian zone has all of this existing pavement in there that's going to be removed
Right.
and replaced by a pervious surface of which is looking to be community garden and some other plantings there. So we would see, all that removal in the outer riparian zone, and to us, I think that's very advantageous.
That's a plus.
Yep. Above like a lawn, that would be,
Yeah, if you're going from pavement to lawn, so you're improving that degraded area, so you, above the 9,000 square feet, we're disturbing or almost whatever, it was 2,900 square feet of area. So we're above the 10%, but most of that is improving degraded area. And you're allowed to do that in a redevelopment,
okay, thank you.
as long as your total area doesn't exceed that 1-to-1. So you can't, I couldn't disturb more than 9,000 square feet of degraded. And we only disturb about 3,000
Yeah.
above the 1-to-1.
And I know that we're focused on this lot, but if the other lots where you don't have the pavement, are you still considering putting lawn?
You have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, I only have this one before us right now, so it's the only one we can,
Got it.
And the
really-
intent is to be maintained as what's there today, which is, it's a meadow-like habitat, it's not a formal landscape lawn, the intent is it's maintained as it was today, which is not a formal landscaped area, lawn area, but it's a meadow.
thank you for the questions. Ma'am? Mhm.
Anna Butter, Joe's wife, 9 Douglas Road, Jennifer Vozella. Does allowing, say, planting a lawn and putting a fire pit in the outer riparian buffer on Lot 4 set any kind of precedent for the development of the other 5 lots? In other words, could somebody come in and point to that and say, well, we want a lawn too, to the 100-foot buffer? Because I just don't know if precedent would apply.
Well, right now, we have existing pavement, and in that existing pavement area, they're gonna be removing pavement and making from an impervious surface to a pervious surface. So in this particular instance where it's pre-disturbed, we're saying that, removing that and putting in a community garden and some grassed area is is better than what is being shown. So is it setting precedent? I don't know if it sets precedent because every project come before us is different. But if somebody had impervious surface pavement in the outer riparian zone and they were looking to remove that and replace it with something pervious, we would be in agreement with that.
And my other question is, if you wouldn't mind repeating.
You guys concur with that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
so-
Because it's an improvement. No
Okay.
matter what, it's an improvement.
And not every lot will have the
No,
opportunity for
exactly.
improvement.
Sort of like it, or, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, typically, like I said, you know, if this was, if this was brand new, lot never had anything done to it, it's, 200-foot river, it's, zero between, 0 to 100, no alteration and only 10% in that outer riparian zone. So,
okay.
Okay.
but it's been previously disturbed.
All right. And then I know Matt already mentioned this, but what did you say about fertilizer, like the concern about fertilizer? You said it was addressed
I
and.
believe it was put in as an order of conditions that limits the fertilizer, and I don't remember what the condition was.
We'll see how much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was at the front half of the order of conditions. Not
Just-
as a condition, but as a finding, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong.
I thought I
Margaret
was
will
saying
remember,
it.
I know she will.
Yeah, I'm just looking through the,
And beyond that, I think it's also in the stormwater conditions that they're required in the operation and maintenance manual to follow the healthy lawns. That's in the O&M manual, and limit fertilizers and nitrogen type activities in the back of the riverfront. But
What if you clicked on the magnifying glass near contents and typed fertilizer? It might come right up.
Mails, I think it'll. there's
Oh, it's
multiple,
PDF.
Orders of conditions, so
Oh, so
I'll
it's not.
find, I'll be
I'm
bouncing around
sorry.
even. No, it's a great suggestion, though.
Sure.
it'd be on a watch list somewhere.
Oh, I see it, 39. That's a,
My experience would be it'd be a low nitrogen level nitrate, especially adjacent to a riverfront area. You'd be concerned about the
Yeah,
nitrate
39.
loading.
There it is on 39.
39, all landscaping on the site shall be installed so as to not require the ongoing use of fertilizers, herbicides, and pesticides within 100 feet of the jurisdiction of the resource and within the riverfront area. So,
oh, wow, okay. And will there be sprinklers?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
But
Thank
that's, just to be clear, that's within 100 feet of the wetland resource area. So we have the ability to use a low nitrogen level fertilizer from the 100 to 200 foot area, which is, that 100 foot is to the riverfront, correct? Just so I make sure we understand that.
this is written, it's within 100 feet of a jurisdictional wetland resource, so in terms of that's bordering vegetated wetlands, bank,
So what,
and within the riverfront area, so anywhere within that 200 feet.
so this is
Within-
including the outer.
This is,
100.
the way it's written, it includes all 200 feet.
Yes.
okay, I just want to be clear, that's all.
So no fertilizer in the buffer, the riparian buffer, the RFA?
Inner or outer, according to this.
Okay,
Yeah, basically that, from the, kind of that end of the pavement area, be up
Right.
and back.
Right.
where the,
Basically where the berm stops, that's pretty much the delineation line.
not really, it's actually just at the edge of the
It's
fire
actually
pit,
up there.
yeah.
That's where the berm
Yeah,
originally
well,
was.
we'll define that.
Well, it's gonna be, you have your community gardens there, so
Right.
you know, within that area, so there's really not gonna be fertilized
I
community
can
gardens then.
update the O&M manual that was for the stormwater. I think one of their final conditions is that we have to submit the final O&M, and I think you mimicked that language. We can beef that up to make sure that it matches that condition
Okay,
Okay.
thank
in the
you.
O&M manual, so that the two are cohesive, or that they're saying the same thing.
All right, thank you.
How does that get enforced?
Any other, you're good? Okay,
Just-
yep, coming up.
How does that get enforced? Like, when you sell the condos, and now you have the land and the grass, like, how does not putting regular fertilizer down, like,
Well, if anything else, somebody either says something, or it's.
Yeah, somebody would need to point something out to us, that's the only way, you know. It's not like we have people who go around, it's usually brought to our attention.
Orders of conditions get recorded at the Registry of Deeds.
Okay.
O&M manual gets recorded as part of the stormwater permit, and I think we either bundle it with the order of conditions or the stormwater permit, or both. It's kind of becomes, it goes with either one or the other.
Well, I get what you say, you can put anything you want in a plan, he's like, how does it actually get enforced after, after it's all written?
Presumably, there's a contractor that's hired to do the stuff, and some of it is okay, who's overseeing him, and it just,
well, it's
Yeah.
good to hear it's written somewhere
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
for the new owners.
yeah.
Yes.
And if it's written somewhere and you happen to know that it was something else was happening, then, you know, we rely on somebody like you to bring it to our attention.
Right.
Anything else? So we're gonna approve these as amended?
Yes.
You good with that? So, any further questions or comments on these orders? I know you're still chatting.
We had talked last time, one more thing. We had talked last time about some of the plantings. Remember there was
The non-native.
what was it, the ivory silk Japanese tree lilac, which is not a native to this area. That's the one,
I thought those were outside of the resource area.
SR, I guess it is. Where are those?
Thought those were used up around the house, Matt.
Yeah, the SRs, I believe,
Okay, is it?
are out front, because I think
All
Matt
right.
had noticed that.
We made a
Okay.
point to pull those
Yeah.
all out of that
Okay.
native requirement area. There are some of those around the house itself, but they're not within that zone.
Outside of our jurisdiction.
Correct.
These three here are the SRs.
Yes.
And same with some of the other shrubs. They're-
Actually here,
they're,
too.
you know, certainly not native, and I prefer a native, but at the same point, it's outside the commission's jurisdiction.
All right.
So, everything within the 200 is a native species.
We all set?
We're all set.
Yeah.
Seeing no other discussion, can I have a motion to issue the order of conditions for Lot 4, 124 Main Street, DEP file number 334-1782 as amended?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor, Marilyn?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Abstain.
Margaret?
Yes.
I'm in favor. Motion to close the public hearing?
Moved.
Second?
All those in favor, Marilyn?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann, you abstain?
I guess I can move to close the public
Either,
hearing.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, yes.
Yes. We're all set?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on to our 8:20 PM agenda item, which is a continued public hearing and issue order of conditions for 28 Lakeshore Drive North. How you doing?
How are you?
Good. So Matt, what do we hold, what's,
So the applicants have revised the plan, provided the plan, DEP file number has been issued. The draft conditions, did you have any questions? Did you have any comments on?
No, it makes sense.
all set?
Okay.
Any questions from the audience in regards to the order of conditions? Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve the order of conditions or issue the order of conditions for 28 Lake Shore Drive North, DEP file number 334-1785?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor? Marilyn?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Margaret? I'm in favor, okay. Motion to close the public hearing?
Second?
All's in favor, Marilyn?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
Eric? Yes. You're all set, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Nothing like going through the motions.
Sorry I had to wait so long.
Okay, we're going to move on to our 8:25 PM agenda item, which is a continued public hearing for 31 Bridge Street. Mr. Franklin, I don't see Mr. Franklin here this
He
evening.
has requested to continue the public hearing to the 9th, with Peter not being in attendance. I didn't want to start approaching quorum issues.
Okay, that's fine. Can I have a motion then to continue this public hearing until February 9th?
So moved.
Jim?
Second.
All's in favor, Marilyn?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
Eric? Yes. Okay. All right, we're going to move on to our 8:30 PM agenda item, which is a public hearing continued and to issue order of conditions for 73 Edmore Road, and looks like the applicant has...
No.
Oh, they're here, okay.
That was an amendment.
Okay. Hey, Dan.
How you doing?
Good. So we're here to issue an order of conditions here and close the public hearing. Did you, any issues with the orders?
I think it was answered for me earlier with the number 45 here, because, we had talked about the time frame for us to do the work is actually better to do it now.
Oh, the December 1st to April 1st? So,
In terms of the tree cutting.
so
and whatnot.
let us issue the orders and then you make the request.
Okay. It was just a process thing of how
Yeah,
I'm supposed to.
but you're gonna wanna do that, right? They're gonna wanna do that. Get the,
Well, I'm sure I've got to, the order says I have to spell out some certain things anyway.
well, you just have to make a written request to us to work between December 1st and April 1st. I mean, you could do that tonight if you wanted to.
That's fine.
Well, first,
I have it in writing.
First, we have to deal with these orders. Other than that, did you have any issues with the orders of
No,
conditions?
it just, that doesn't require another meeting, is my point.
Okay. Commission, have any questions or comments? Any questions from the audience? Seeing none, can I have a motion to issue the order of conditions for 28 Lake Shore Drive North, DEP file number...
73 and
Oh, sorry,
73 on.
yep, for 73 Enmore Road, DEP file number 334-1766.
So moved.
1776.
1776. I had a motion, I have a second. All those in favor, Marilyn?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
Excellent. I'm gonna let him make that, before we close the public hearing, I'm gonna let him make his request.
Typically, we need it's a written request.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
he
then-
just has to jot that he wants to work,
Blank
have,
piece of paper, give him a blank piece of paper.
And I think he can do it even after we
There,
close the
Jim's
public
got
hearing.
a green blank piece of paper.
Yeah,
It's already
there's-
got your DEP file number on it and everything.
yeah,
Perfect.
You want a pen?
Even better.
There you go.
even better.
I guess the other question on,
So you're requesting to work between December 1st and April 1st at 73 Enmore Road.
Specifically to do the following items. It's like to cut and grub trees or whatever you're gonna be doing.
Yep,
I'll sign these.
yep,
Might as well.
yep.
Both front and back page. received a written request to work between December 1st and April 1st to do tree removal and demolition on the walls for the project.
So we have a motion to work between December 1st and April 1st at 73 Enmore Road to do tree work and grading?
Demolition, tree removal, demolition, and construction of the walls.
So that's demolition of the wall?
Demolition of the walls, demolition, and construction of the walls.
Okay.
Yeah, well, there's no, yeah.
Commission, good with that?
So moved.
Second.
All's in favor, Marilyn?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
Eric? Yes. So the motion to work between December 1st and April 1st has been granted. Motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All's in favor, Marilyn?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
Eric? You're all set.
There's discussion item 53, should I stay for that?
I
Is that-
just wanted, it was more just for the commission to see the.
That's what I thought.
So, at 22, the applicant for 22 is actually in the discussion item at the,
For Cloverfield?
yeah, 3341769 Cloverleaf Fields, 22 Griffin Road. Request to work between December 1st and April 1st.
Oh, one of the ones you just recently submitted to us.
Yes.
Yes. Well, sure, why don't we just take them out of order then and just bring them in and take care of it?
And Elizabeth's in the audience as well.
Yeah, so
Yep.
that's, first one was, so we did receive this before our last meeting, but did not make it into the package. They are requesting to do grading and for both the Lot C, which was the front parcel out along Griffin Road, and then also some of the roadway and associated fill with the cul-de-sac. Erosion controls have been installed. Pre-construction meeting has not beaten as of yet. We're still waiting on a couple things. Showing area 1, this, where's my? Just this hatched area, kind of between. That's area 1, where they're looking to start doing some grading for the foundation of Lot C. And then area 2 is just this small portion of the right-of-way and associated grading thereof is being requested, in addition to the demolition of the barns, which the corners of encroach within the 100-foot buffer.
Is he describing that correctly?
Yes.
That it?
Yes, those are the kind of three.
Commission, good with allowing that work to occur between December 1st and April 1st?
Yes.
Yep.
Seeing so, can I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
All's in favor, Marilyn?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
I'm good with it. All right. Thank you very much. So we're going to move on to our 8:30 PM agenda item, which is a public hearing for Graystone Pond. Anybody here for that?
And every single time?
Yeah, I have not. I reached out to the engineer of record and was not able to get a response for a continuance. So I think per the regulations, we can only extend it 21 days, a maximum of 21 days. So we have to, I will follow back up with them and next week to figure out when they actually will have an updated plan. And I would like to get this resolved because if I'm concerned about the quorum, potential quorum issues at 31 Bridge Street, there are much bigger quorum issues with regards to this, and people missing meetings could significantly impact this one. So
Okay.
Okay.
if we continue this to the 126 or January 26th meeting of the commission.
Okay.
You good with that?
Yeah.
Can I have a motion then to continue the public hearing until 26th?
So moved.
Second.
All's in favor, Marilyn?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
I'm in favor. All right,
We have-
anybody
we have
here for the bat boxes?
Yes.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
Nope. Great. Good evening, Elizabeth. How are you doing tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Matt, can you, with GIS, can you bring up that portion of the field so that we can look? Because one of the things that came up is where that turf is there's a wetland nearby? And so one of the questions is procedurally, if the work would be done within 100 feet of the wetlands, that brings up something, you know, that we need to talk about, what needs to be done for review and approval.
Okay.
So, I just kind of want to make sure that we're dealing with all this stuff now rather
Yeah,
than at the
no,
last
thank you.
minute. Now, in terms of the bat boxes being able to hold up to 100, as Mark said, was that the size that the Girl Scouts were planning to do, or were they planning to do smaller boxes?
I don't know what size he had, and I don't know that we looked at the capacity of the number of bats in the house. I mean, we were thinking something, you know, boxes about that big, so I'm not sure how big his box was that held 100 bats.
Okay. Okay, that kind of took me by surprise.
That's a lot of beds.
They're only like that big.
Yeah.
Tiny.
I know, I kind of like, it sounds like a lot, but then on the other hand, they are like mice, right? And they can
Yeah,
pack
they are
into
tiny.
Yeah. You know,
a small
and
space. So.
the assumption
I've never
is,
seen those bat boxes, I should say.
They're flat. They're like only maybe 3 inches deep or so, and they have a little
With a screen,
angled roofs.
like a
but the-
screen mesh in there so they can climb up underneath. And
Yeah.
That's it.
Sounds
Yeah.
cute.
And the opening's at the bottom, so it looks like just a flat box,
yeah,
and then they crawl up the bottom.
okay. Yeah, because we were thinking that if they're coming out at dusk and going back in at dawn, chances are the farmer's not going to have workers in the field at that time.
Right.
But, you know, we are within the buffer, depending on where along the edge of the tilled area, the plan is to, would be to erect the poles is, do
So-
we,
Why do you want to put them where the renter is instead of near the community garden?
so, okay, so, and I will quote, where is it? So basically, well, you would, I'll let you.
Okay, so this whole project started because my daughter's Girl Scouts, they're 10. They wanted to do a community service project, something with wildlife, so this is the take action part of their little program that they're doing. They got into bats for some, I'm not even sure how now we started down the trail of bats. We had a meeting at the garden with Kirsten Hirschler, one of the town's animal control officers, and another woman whose name I now forget, but she works for Audubon, and she rehabs bats in her spare time. So she has a bedroom in her house where she takes in injured bats until they're ready to go free again.
That's a new one.
There you go.
It was actually, it was quite fun for the girls, the 10-year-old girls, to see these two women. You know, Kirsten does rehab of squirrels, so to hear about their passion and all that. So it was a great Girl Scout day. We met at the garden. I had thought we'd put the bat houses close to the garden because we want this to benefit. We're hoping they'll help with the mosquito population, and you know, it'll be more enjoyable for the gardeners and also provide habitat for the bats. The bat expert did not recommend putting it near the garden. One reason being, wherever the bat boxes are, you'll have guano accumulating underneath the boxes. So she said you don't want that where people are walking. Best to have it away. You also don't want people getting tempted to try and interact with the bats. You don't want people looking in the bat boxes or trying to touch them or anything. Bats can carry rabies, so for the bats' comfort, for people's safety, she recommended putting them far away. They also need a clearing where they can swoop in and out of the bat house. So you can't put it, like around the garden, we keep that fence up all summer, so we have an 8-foot deer fence, so we can't put it too close to the garden because we don't want to have bats getting caught in the net and then need to call the bat rehab lady. So when we walked the property with the gal, we walked around the garden, and then she recommended we go across the field so that the bats are further away from the humans. They have plenty of room to swoop in and out without becoming entangled in anything. And the humans won't notice the bat boxes and won't be tempted to try to engage with the bats if they're across the field.
Makes sense.
Have you talked to the renter?
I've reached out to follow her. She said she didn't have any, there was no objection and that she was okay with it.
Great.
So
Okay.
got that response yesterday. And just kind of looking at this now and, doing bad distances off of, what appears to be a stream. It's about 100 feet at that point. I will most certainly take a look at what approvals would be needed to put in a post of some sort. I think I may be able to creatively look at the Wetlands Protection Act to find, I'm sure there's something about habitat improvement that is a minor activity that, would be.
So we could leave it to Matt to find the appropriate
Well,
location.
and Elizabeth, I think there was, where they were talking was a crescent kind of on the north side where the tilled area bulges out, but I don't think there had really been any fact-based discussion of where would be the best place to do it. So one of the things we could do too is focus on locations that are more than 100 feet from jurisdictional resource areas.
Yeah, I could certainly pull some tape. Just looking at this though, this red line.
Looks like we may have one spot in there, right? Like one tiny.
Yeah, this is, it's, that's about 100 feet.
Yeah.
As shown. So it would certainly be tight, and, we can certainly work to find places that are outside the jurisdiction, and I love nothing more than reading.
Yeah, but even if it wasn't a jurisdiction, all we'd be doing is issuing, not even, it would be a negative
Like
determination.
a Party A?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it wouldn't even be a conditional, so it would just be like, you're putting up a post to put up a bat box, or two of them,
Exactly. I can find, I like reading the Wetlands Protection Act. We can,
Yeah,
I'm sure there's some language there. we
I'm
can use.
sure, I'm sure it's gonna happen.
And one of the things, because back in the fall, one of the things I had done was I had walked the perimeter to see where she had fenced to keep the deer out. And there is a good, 10, 15, 20 feet between where she's got that deer fence and where the edge of the tilled fields is. So I think there's enough of an area that you can put the posts in there, and what falls on the ground is not going to be where her people are going to be walking.
Right.
So we could leave it so Matt can find it.
Yeah,
Appropriate
I'm
place
just-
for Elizabeth.
Well,
And-
I think one of the concerns though was they didn't know what they were going to do.
I agree, but I think now we can let them
Yeah, no, I think
Yeah,
there's,
have in mind, I have no problem.
yeah, I have no problem with this.
Okay.
I wish them all kinds of luck. About 20 years ago, I built some bat houses from plans from Bat Conservation International and all, with the right
Yeah.
size, spacing and all.
Yeah.
They stayed
Nothing.
up there for probably 10 years, the wood rotted away and the bats never moved
Oh.
in.
Yeah,
She did tell us, the expert did tell us it can take time for the bats to find it, so she said, don't expect,
Yeah.
to go out there, to find bats 3 weeks later or something. She said it can take a
I'm
year
sure
or
Matt
two.
can help you find a spot or two out there.
Yeah.
Perfect. Sounds
Perfect.
good. Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much.
So
Can
do
I
I-
say something about poison ivy too?
That's going to be on the January 26th because
Okay, fine.
we've
I
got a
didn't- I
project
didn't hear it.
description, we've got plans.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
actually not my project. Some of
No,
the other
I-
gardeners
I
are working
saw
on that, so.
somewhere quickly
Well,
today.
it is under the discussion items, but
Okay. It's not
there's a
gonna be
lot
today.
of meat to it.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's somebody else is working on that. I don't have the
Okay,
information
just
on that.
wanted to be sure.
You're not here to talk to
I'm
them.
not here to talk about poison.
Have a good evening and Happy New Year.
Girl Scout hat tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Good night.
Take care.
Do we need to take an actual vote on this, or just the consensus is fine?
I would
We'll do a vote.
I think a vote.
Okay.
Yeah,
Make a motion that we permit this construction of the back houses.
Placement to be determined by Matt, right?
Yeah, thank you for finishing my motion.
Okay. Just want to make sure that got in
so I
there.
had that motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All's in favor, Marilyn?
Yes?
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yeah.
Yes. Ann?
Yes?
Margaret?
Yes.
Eric, yes.
Okay, you're all set.
All right, thank you.
Anna, are you here for something else for?
Yeah, you're having a discussion, right?
The Lakes and
Yeah,
Streams.
which one are you here for, though?
Probably Lakes and Streams.
Elm Road?
Oh,
Okay.
oh, Elm.
Okay, so let's move on to discussion for Elm Road then.
Yeah, so we received, beginning of the new year, Allen Engineering provided a response to DEP. I think they have, changed some of the grading along the water body to allow for greater storage capacity at that level. I think that's where DEP's comments were. I think I provided them to the commission in the December meeting. So it was more just to keep everyone apprised. If anybody has a discussion, again, where the DEP's appealing the commission's order, so we're a party to this as well. But I want you guys to see.
So they just sent this to us for info, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
this was just,
Okay.
I mean, ultimately, if it can be resolved, if DEP finds this acceptable and, the appeal can be resolved, the commission, I didn't want you guys to be caught at the last, at the last point of, contact with this going, oh, well, how did we get here? Kind of showing the work of how things have progressed. And Dan's vigorously working with Mark to get this happening.
So other than that update, there's nothing more for us
Yeah,
to do at the
there's
moment?
much for the commission to.
Yeah.
We haven't heard back from DEP either.
I have not heard back from DEP.
So it's like, this is all, because it's .00006 compensatory storage. That's what we sent in there, we say it's gotta be zero.
Well, I guess,
But that's why people go crazy, they pull in some nut like Donald Trump, and we have to deal with stuff like this.
well, I guess we're part of that waiting game as well,
Yeah.
so. Nothing more for us to do on that at the moment. So no further discussion on that. Let's move on to the conservation land tree removal and replacement at Sycamore and Cypress.
I'm working on it. We are close.
Take care,
We are
Dan.
close to getting boulders placed, and I will have it, and hopefully I will be by I think there may be snow.
Boulders can be planted on top of snow.
I think that's where we're getting to.
That's fine.
So we're.
We're gonna christen the boulders.
Yep, we are.
Dave, sorry, Eric, I don't want to take your.
Okay, how about the Beaver Brook Road Bridge replacement?
So we received a application for a water quality certification from Mass DOT for the replacement of the Beaver Brook culverts, and it will now be a bridge with improvements, habitat improvements as such. One of the commission, Assistant Engineer, Town Engineer Jeremy Downs presented to the commission back, I think, I had the minutes in there, just showing, again, kind of showing the progress of this. It is exempt from filings with the commission, so I mean, it's more just a cursory look, and I think it's a net benefit to the habitat connectivity, as they're replacing two 90-inch culverts with, I think, a 36, 38, 39-foot span. If the commission has any comments or questions, I'd be happy to relay them to DOT.
I'm good. We're all set, thank you. How about the FY22 Community Preservation Committee applications?
Yes, so there are two. One is from the Healthy Lakes and Ponds Collaborative. I sent that out today, a draft of the application requesting the commission's support or the collaborative's application for continued management of the 7 water bodies in town. So Nab, Forge, Longsot 4, Kais, Burgess, and Kennedy. It's a combination of monitoring, survey work, herbicide treatments for the invasives present, algicides
Okay, so I can see why we would
Please
support that request.
This is, they're coming back again.
Yeah, this is,
Yeah.
I think previously it was a couple years ago.
Why, you need it back, or?
Say again?
So I can see why they, what do you think, guys? We'd throw our support behind that, for sure.
There's one section, I don't have it in front of me, because I know this came separately, but I think it was paragraph 8, where you, I think it's 8, where you replicated it, cut and pasted. There's some typos in there that make it unreadable about the nitrogen loading and, let's see if I can find it.
Are we talking about the Healthy Lake still?
Yes, yes. I think it was in the sections where you actually did the budgeting, estimating.
Oh, really?
There were 2 options, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it was probably like 8. Let's scroll down a little more. Yes, this part in here.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what this, there's too many words that are not words. Potential.
Yeah, I appreciate your, and loading spelled wrong.
Yeah, exactly, and that got copied into the next
Yeah,
option too, so.
I'll rework that. Don't want to
We
have
had
typos.
supported the original times they came before my committee.
Yeah, and Noel and I had attended, and along with Matt, had attended a presentation by the contractor that wrote the original report and did the assessments. They had it at the Nab Lake Country Club about, what was it,
Before Thanksgiving.
2 months ago, 3
Yeah.
months, something like that, yeah. And they presented all this information that answered questions. There's a lot of community involvement. There were a lot of Nabnasset residents.
So in short, this is something we would support.
We could
Yes.
have a letter so that.
Okay,
when we come to-
so do you want to take a motion to support these one by one? So can I have a motion?
I did have something to say about this.
Okay.
There's one part of this that I don't support. The use of the chemical diclot is something that I don't support. Diclot has been banned in many countries around the world. The European Union has banned it back in 2018 for reasons that it is harmful to humans, it's harmful to pollinators, it's harmful to bees, and it's a really harmful chemical. I know that these bodies of water aren't specifically for drinking, but our pollinators, our dogs, our kids, all take a gulp of this water every once in a while. So I have a hard time supporting this because of this chemical that we're using on the water for a body of water that is part of our aquifer. So
Can we not support what they're doing with the exception of and mark it as such, and that can be brought up? They have to come before us anyway.
Yeah,
if
I
we
mean,
get the
it's-
money. In other words, this isn't in stone. They would have to come before Conservation Commission before they
Right,
get.
I mean, there's
anyway.
notice of intent for
But
the
I put it in the
management.
letter, Nicole. In other words,
no,
I do this all the time. You know I know who you are. So
I know.
I apologize.
That's coming from Margaret, by the way.
No.
That's why I said it.
The other Margaret.
Yes.
But in other words, I think this is about whether we support giving them money so they can clean up the lake. And the other and you can certainly mention it in the note, but the commission notices that and would want to substitute.
There may be a substitute for
Right,
dicot,
right,
I don't
right.
know, and we certainly can request that from them.
I do support giving the money towards the benefit of all of our bodies of water. I just think that where the money is going needs to be looked at a little bit better. I think it was $2,500 out of the entire total goes to the education process. I think that educating the people who live around the lake is it's a huge benefit to the body of water, and I think that the education process needs to be a little bit more looked into, and
That you can't
yeah,
change.
I think that just delegating the money needs to be looked at a little bit better, but I do support giving the money.
Okay, so that, your issue about, you know, the education probably needs to be spoken also to the Healthy Lakes. You should make a statement to them, you know, yourself.
I think what they're trying to do is collect a bunch of recommendations, positive recommendations they're looking for, so that can be submitted with the application.
They are, I understand that, right.
So
that I think we should.
And I think they have our support, but there are some things that we would like to see.
So we ought to write it that way. We should.
That's what I said,
Okay.
that's what I said.
Okay.
I can certainly take
When
the
it comes to
commission's
that, we were
comments
looking
and.
for a substitute because we would not agree with that if they came before us at the table. I think that could be in the letter so that it would be very clear.
So we'll have the support, but it will be
And
conditionalized.
they're coming before us. My guess is that we need this letter, we need this letter by next.
Yeah, I mean, I can draft it and
Yeah,
can
because we
certainly,
don't have a
you know.
lot of applications, and my guess is that will be done in.
So does that work for you, Noel?
Absolutely. Thank you,
Okay.
Marilyn. Thank you.
So, let me take a motion again for,
Somebody else has to make a
for our
decision.
support of this Community Preservation Committee application.
I move we can concur with the approach and the plan, except for, we don't support the use of dicot.
And we want to see, we want to.
More of an educational
More of an
component.
Put it in the
Yeah, more-
education piece.
Yes. Well, and we recommend to them to
Yeah, that's a better
expand.
word. That's a better word, because you can't change their.
Right, but,
Yeah.
and we want them to expand and diversify their educational outreach.
Yeah.
So, all those in favor, Marilyn?
Yes, you have a second, because I didn't give the motion.
Second.
because I
Okay.
didn't think you said- okay.
Jim moved and I
Yes.
And you
second.
seconded it, so I have Marilyn,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes, thank you.
Ann,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes,
Eric, yes, okay. The other Community Preservation Committee application requesting our support is the Recreation Department for, it looks like, rehabilitation of the Jack Welch Recreational Area Court.
Yes, so the Parks and Recreation Director, Jim Duane, reached out to me wanting to present this to the commission. The courts are in poor condition at best. He's looking to, again, this is for requesting funding to conduct the design and permitting. So again, this does not tie the commission to, you know, approving whatever is
This is just giving
proposed.
them money to do it.
Right, it's to, you know, allocate money to have it designed and permitted.
I'm fine with that. Commission, have any other comments or questions? Seeing none, kind of a motion to support the Rec Department's Community Preservation Committee application?
So
So
moved.
moved. Oh, second.
All's in favor, Marilyn?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Margaret?
yes.
Eric? Yes, okay.
As I said, these should be attached to that application.
Yep.
So I hate to tell you this, but by this week.
Oh, I know,
Okay.
this is, you know, first thing done tomorrow.
So,
Rare times when we don't have a lot of applications.
certificate of compliance request for 71 Powers Road?
That's just tabled, it's, you know,
Yeah, they were
placeholder
just,
for-
yep. No site visits to record, no site visits to schedule.
I have one, we jumped over the Emmett Conservation Land, leaf blowing of
Yep.
trails. It was raised to us
Yep.
by the trail stewards that somebody had blown off the
I
leaf.
saw the pictures.
And I read that.
When they report it next time, just ask them who did it,
Yeah, it's.
and we'll talk to that person, because I don't want to put up
So,
signs.
you know, I don't
Oh,
want any
yeah,
more,
okay.
Jim, I agree, no signs, but, you know, we can certainly educate better and we can.
Did you
know,
say no more leaf blowing?
Yeah.
Have you
Yeah.
heard about this anywhere else?
No.
No.
No, okay, this is the first time.
It's
I
kind
heard
of
it.
like when they were clearing all the
Okay,
the
okay.
sticks and
Sticks,
things
right.
off of Grassy
Okay.
Pond.
Grassy
and-
Pond, they lined the trails
I
with
think
sticks,
that's
but
done. I haven't heard any more about that.
Haven't been in there in a
so
while.
it-
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully that's done.
Okay,
But that's all I have.
If there's anything else, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
second.
All in favor, Marilyn?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Noel?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
Eric? Yes. Good night, folks.
All right, Noel, I'm going to hang you up, all right?